You can't break my family, is something Vin Diesel says in what feels like every Fast and Furious movie, but it's probably only actually one of them, isn't it, really? It's a pretty Fast and Furious heavy show today on Monday Madness, with our full rankings of every single one of them, apart from Hobbs and Shaw, because that's just go away with Hobbs and Shaw, really. As well as a Fast and Furious or a Fast X non-spoiler review, because only one of us have seen it as time of this recording, which is most annoying. There's also a bunch of trailers. There's a Haunted Mansion trailer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 in what seems to be a double colon title. And if you're here for the last episode,
Yes.
you know my hatred of colon titles. There's also some rumours about James Gunn's Superman and a bit more as well, because we always like to have fun on this show. Welcome to the madness. Hello everyone, welcome back to Monday Madness with Morgan and the Machine. I don't know what all that kind of signalling I was doing at the end of the intro. What did I do? Like, welcome to the madness.
Yes.
Like, left, right. I don't. We're not starting a
It
dance.
works. It's fine. It's fine.
Does it work? I don't know if it does. But then again, isn't that pretty accurate to the nature of Fast and Furious movies? Do they work?
They are all over the place.
Somehow they do work. It's strange.
This one definitely will have you doing that, because you kind of go in all kinds of directions, which we will get into.
I would expect, as I think I would expect anyway.
Yes.
From a Fast and Furious movie. I don't know. Are we okay? How are we? How are you? How am I? How is everybody? Are we all good this week?
Well, apparently I'm furious.
You are furious. I am fast. So think of that what you will. Whatever in whatever context you may want to. I'm not very fast, actually, as we all know. I'm slow and deliberate and can't even run that fast, really. I don't think. I don't know. I haven't run in a long time. When was the last time any of us actually ran, unless we are actual athletes? You know?
No, it's been a minute. But I'm happy to be perpetuating stereotypes about angry Black women.
Well, look, it couldn't have been. I go on this side of the screen. That's why.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
And it couldn't have been furious and fast, which is
I'll take your
we've never used.
I'll take your word for it.
That is my word for it. It's a title they've never used, and I'm quite surprised they have never used, actually.
I mean, you could have made me X, so Fast X, Fast 10.
Yes, but it's all
encompassing
Fast and Furious.
Yes.
Today on the show.
I just like giving you a hard time. It's fine.
I know you do. Yes, you're very good at it. You always have been, and I think you probably always will be. But we do have things we want to talk about today. I think. Well, we certainly do. What do we want to start with in today's What's Up? I will ask the question of Sup, Jeannine.
We have a few things up today, Morgan. We always have some new trailers coming out, so we do have quite a few trailers to talk about. One, we'll get this one out of the way since you are unfamiliar, but we got another new trailer for a Mission Impossible, their new movie that's coming out in July, part 1 of a 2-part kind of finale, I guess. So
no, I don't trust anybody when they say these things anymore. Again, not after what Vin Diesel's been saying at the Fast X premiere of Fast and Furious now being a 3-part finale. I don't trust anybody when they say this is going to be the last one. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, but that's fair. That's fair. especially when you're a pretty successful franchise, which this one is.
Yeah.
And I talk about getting this out of the way for you because you actually have not seen any Mission Impossible movies yet. Um, but we
Saving myself for moments. That's all
yes,
right.
so, I guess in this moment now I can tease that, we will be watching the series probably in July for Morgan hasn't seen, so you will get to finally watch these movies and form your opinions about this
Yes.
franchise. I think a lot of people actually put this in the kind of trilogies of these, spy movies as kind of their number 1. I recently saw Christian Harloff, he talked about his ranking, and he put this one first, Bourne second, and Bond third.
The
Just
problem with Bond is that
it's
it
because it's
has
just
too many.
yes, there's so many and different actors and different interpretations that there's not a strong consistency. Whereas,
You would need to take something like Mission Impossible and Bourne and just put one era of Bond up against that. You can't
yes,
have every
exactly.
era of Bond up against.
Yes, because it would be difficult to kind of do that. But I think this franchise has been pretty consistent. Um, I don't think there's I think there's better movies than others, but I don't think there's one bad movie in the bunch. So I'm curious to see what you think when you finally watch them. But I mean, just in what you've seen of this trailer, what are you getting from this? Is there even the tiniest, slightest bit of anticipation to even delve into this series for you now, having seen this
Well, look,
trailer?
I mean, Mission Impossible has always been something that others have told me to watch, and we all know how that goes with
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Is I
Out
then
of
watch
pure stubbornness, you don't watch
the
because
pure
somebody's
stubbornness, yeah,
yes.
absolute pure stubbornness. Um, I just won't do it. But I've always had an outside respect for them because they're clearly very successful movies, clearly very well loved movies, clearly movies that do that particular spy heisty thriller genre really, really well and really consistently. Um, I don't think there's necessarily anything from this trailer that directly makes me as an outsider go, "Oh yes, I'm into that." But I can certainly see why it probably would be for all of the Mission Impossible fans because all the past people seem to be back. Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, all this business. And I don't know if they haven't been in some movies and have been in some movies. I
The
really don't
only
know.
the only actor who has been there in the beginning since Tom Cruise is Ving Rhames.
Okay.
Simon Pegg didn't come in until the 3rd movie, so he's been there since the 3rd movie.
Okay.
And
Um,
Rebecca Ferguson, she came in the last movie, or the
all right.
last
Okay.
this is I think this'll be her 3rd movie,
Was she in the
I
one
think?
with Henry Cavill?
Yes.
I remember that one. I remember the trailer for that one because he did that weird charging
Little
up his
charge
arms
up yeah.
like that
Yeah.
to start to fight. So I was like, I remember watching that trailer and being like, "Oh, that's interesting. Yes, we like Henry Cavill," and it was the
Yeah.
whole Henry Cavill mustache situation as well,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes. No, he was great in that. So,
So we
um,
were into that, but
y
I don't think there's anything in particular about this trailer that I'm, like I said, as an outsider going, yes, that. But look, I am intrigued as to this upcoming series of Morgan Hasn't Seen. Do check out Morgan Hasn't Seen on the podcast
yes.
feed, of course. You have it scrolling down at the bottom if you are watching. If you are listening, it's literally probably just the next step, the couple of episodes down is the last episode of Morgan Hasn't Seen on your preferred podcast platform. So we will be doing a series on Mission Impossible. It's been a long time coming, really. I think that one.
Yes.
And for some reason, I've only recently realised that the first one was a Brian De Palma movie,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm actually interested. I'm doubly interested in because how
There
does
have
he
been
bring his slightly heightened,
yes.
ridiculously
That's
stylish
probably the most
nature
kind of
to it?
serious plotty one.
Okay.
Um And yeah, like, I think though the earlier ones, I think 1 through 4 have, like, very fun voices because it's, like, completely different directors, but known directors with very specific styles. So you have Brian De
Yeah.
Palma, the first one, you have John Woo, the second one, so
Okay.
you know
Yeah.
his kind of vibe. So it's very much heightened, kind of goofy action
I
going
mean,
into that
similar
one.
similar to De Palma, John Woo, in the sense that everything is taken up to a ridiculous theatrical level.
Yes, yes, you have J.J. Abrams in the 3rd one.
Okay.
I believe Brad Bird with the 4th one. So you're having all these different voices kind of speak to these familiar characters, and so there's fun tones throughout kind of
Who's doing
the
this one?
uh, Christopher McQuarrie, I think that's his name,
Okay, he's done the last few,
he did
has
the
he
last
done the
yeah,
last few?
yes, yes, and I think he wrote and worked on Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise. I think
Ah,
he
right, okay.
helped pen the story for that. So they have worked really closely together, and I think he actually is involved in the writing of the ones he's directed as well of these movies. So,
Okay.
um yeah, I'm excited for it because I really love this franchise. I've actually been doing this rewatch with friends because one of our friends, Dials, he has not seen them. So, whenever we can get together, we kind of plan a whole big movie night and everybody comes over and I'll make food and a themed cocktail and we haven't gotten very far because we're all always super busy. So, we have watched the first 2. So, I don't know that we'll make it in time, but of course I'll be watching them again for our show. But so I'll get my double fill of these movies. But I've loved them. I think it's a solid franchise. It's just one of those things that I think is why when you watch these movies, it's the franchise that makes you say that Tom Cruise really is kind of the last movie star. Um
Okay, so I mean, this is the franchise for him, really.
yes.
More so than anything. I mean, to be fair, when you think about it, it's his only real franchise, isn't it? I mean, we say
Yes.
franchise, movie series. It's his only real movie series.
That's been consistent and well made, and then obviously, like, his delving into the stunt work and doing these crazy stunts and
Yeah,
elevating them
yeah,
has kind of come out of these movies, and you don't see any other actors really kind of putting themselves on the line as much. I think maybe a close would be Keanu because he did a lot of his stuff
yeah,
in, the John Wick film. So, yeah, an actor who kind of does everything and still can, be charismatic on screen and carry this franchise and still after all this time and even with all the weird things kind of in his personal life, but you still love watching him on screen. Um, I think this is kind of the one thing that really reminds you when you watch these movies that yes, he's kind of the last of this generation of the Arnolds and the Bruces and the Stallones and movies where you
yeah. I
just
mean,
hear the name and that's enough for you to buy a ticket. Um, he feels like kind of the last of that era who, his name recognition alone. Because despite how you think of him in his reality in his day to day, it's clear who he is on a film set. It's clear who he is when he's making a movie.
yeah,
Um, and people have a lot of respect for him in that sphere. So I think you hear he's going to be in something and, you don't really hesitate to want to check it out. And I think that's
yeah.
kind of fallen by the wayside in a lot of ways in terms of Hollywood. So,
You
yeah, this
can't help but
franchise.
respect. You can't help but respect him professionally.
Yes, and especially with these movies, with him really delving into these insane stunts. So, I mean, I'm excited every movie I think has upped the ante and upped the stunts and not in a Fast and Furious way where it kind of feels far-fetched. They still grounded in some kind of reality, it feels like. So, um yeah, I'm really excited for this movie and I'm really excited for us to do this series so you can kind of, frame your opinions around what these movies are and hopefully enjoy them and
Yeah.
really be excited to get into this movie as well. So,
Even
yeah.
though we have a double colon title.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
colon, Dead Reckoning, colon, part 1.
Yeah.
I thought we
Um,
were. I honestly thought the part one, part two was a 10 years ago thing, and then we kind of stopped for a bit. It feels like we stopped doing that for a bit.
yeah.
Part one,
It
part two.
it was very much like, the hunger, like the YA was like
It
the
was.
genre
Harry
that
Potter
was
did it.
doing that.
Hunger Games did it.
Yeah.
Other things definitely. Twilight did it.
Twilight did it. Mhm.
Um, and then it feels like it stopped. But are we getting back into that
I
world
mean,
now?
perhaps, especially with, what what Vin is out here saying.
I
But
mean, the
yes.
man's insane.
Yes. But our friend Marley loves film. He reminded, or he pointed out to me in the first place, I don't think I noticed that it was Mission: Impossible all this time.
Oh, of course
So,
it is. It's Mission
yeah.
Impossible
I don't
Dead
think I
Reckoning
noticed that.
part one.
So he sent me like a screenshot of the title because he listened to our whole colon debate last Monday show, and so he's like, so he showed me that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this franchise. Been watching it. And I don't even think I paid attention that it was Mission: Impossible whatever the
Thank you for
subtitle is.
pointing that out, Marley. Yes, and making me just
Yes,
have that
validating. Um,
validating my hatred. Yes, but also,
yes.
you know, putting me under more stress when I actually watch these movies to have more colons. We can't be doing with it.
Yes, yeah. So that was a funny kind of realization. But yeah, I'm excited for us to delve into that series, and yeah, you to be excited to watch this movie. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I'm excited. Well, excited to watch this movie or just understanding of what's going on.
Yes, because I
Excitement
mean,
only comes with enjoyment, Janine, and I'm still being stubbornly convinced that I am a hater of,
yeah,
of
okay.
Mission Impossible.
And I think it's going to be all encompassing in the fact that I think they're even, bringing back characters from past films. They brought back Vanessa Kirby came in as the daughter of a character from the first film.
Okay.
Henry Zerny was in the first film. We hadn't seen him since, and now I think he's actually returning in this new movie. So the trailer's kind of highlighting the whole kind of, not skipping over kind of things from, you know, earlier on in the franchise, bringing those things back to make it all feel canon, unlike Bond that kind of, you know, skips around and there's no really continuity to a lot of it. So this
Well, no,
one,
there's nothing like Bond in terms of something that's so. In
well,
terms of
these
the movie
films,
series, there is absolutely nothing like Bond that is able to be so kind of comic book with it,
yeah,
where it's a new
new
writer, a
iteration
new
every
era,
time.
and
Yeah, a
it's a
new
completely
adventure.
different thing.
Well, for the most part, this series, this franchise had been doing that as well, kind of ignoring what came before.
Oh, okay.
So he had, second film, he has this whole kind of love interest with Thandie Newton, and then we never hear from her again. Anthony Hopkins is his boss in 2, and then we never hear from him again.
Okay.
He has like a different team every time with maybe 1 or 2 familiar people. So there didn't seem to be any kind of continuity until the most recent one, Fallout, and now kind of getting characters from the first film and people related to characters from earlier films kind of coming back. So I'm glad to see that this film from this trailer, it's actually not completely ignoring the continuity of the franchise, because it felt very much Bond in a lot of ways, where each film was like a brand new team and brand new people, and that's why
No,
Ving and him have been the only people
yeah.
from the whole thing who have been around the whole time. So this
Well,
one
that's
looks
fair
like it's
enough.
going
But
to call back. So
yeah, it's probably just doing that because it's
the
the
final,
finale,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I guess. But that makes sense. That's quite nice to hear. Actually, I don't
yeah,
mind. I do quite like that. Really, having things feel like their own movie. Feel like you could probably just watch any in order or most.
yeah.
In any order, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. So for
'Cause
the
it
first
doesn't
few, like, yeah,
really
it's a
matter.
different story. It's a different continuity, things that happened in the previous film don't really apply. So you can kind of work in that bubble in the
I
first
don't
few
mind that.
films. Yeah.
I've never even heard that that was the case before. So
Yeah.
I'm pleased to hear that actually. It makes me actually a little bit more into watching those movies, to be honest with you. Right in the last minute of you just discussing that, it has
Oh,
made me
great.
a little bit more excited to actually
Okay.
watch those movies.
Yeah.
But yes, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. There's also a trailer, Janine, for a movie that I am very, very into now, especially after having watched this trailer, I think, because it looks like such a almost spiritually dark movie, I think,
Yes. Yeah.
which is Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon that we talked about a couple of weeks ago or a couple of episodes ago, when there was more details and more kind of photos released from it. But it's now got
A trailer.
a
Yeah.
full trailer. Um, I mean, it's a western. It's obviously a western. It
Yeah.
looks very much. It's a late western, sure. It's like the 20s, but this just looks like a fascinating, fascinating movie. This whole big question of can you see the wolves in this picture,
Yes, I
or can
love
you
that last
find the
shot of the
wolves in this
trailer
picture?
where we're kind of just coming up on this group of people, and then that you hear that line over it. I thought that was really kind of a cool, um, juxtaposition. Him saying that line and then repeating that line and then seeing that group of people and kind of giving us a hint to what we're in for. It was definitely kind of it made me a little bit sad because, this is in the '20s and it's reminding me of, the movie Wind River, which kind of is talking about the same issues of
Okay,
of Native women getting killed and, their murders going unsolved, and that's a modern movie based on kind of real things that happen in
right.
these communities. So the fact that something like this is happening in the '20s and it's still happening today in a movie like Wind River it was just very kind of heartbreaking to see. So,
Yeah, because this is based on true events as well as
yeah,
Killers of the
mhm,
Flower Moon, and like you say, yeah, the kind of the murder of native people for greedy people to acquire their land.
yeah.
That's the idea of this movie, and it's trying to find out who's behind it almost.
Yes,
I
and
mean,
and
De
another kind of
Niro looks like he's very kind of old world and shady in this movie. DiCaprio seems to play a, I suppose, does he have a Native American lover?
yeah, it seems
Is
like
that the
they're in a
indication
relationship.
here?
It looks like there's even a scene of him in bed with her while she's giving birth. So, presumably, a marriage or a relationship, with this Native woman, and very much scenes of them kind of being huddled together, walking through crowds, some type of discrimination may be happening. Um,
Oh, I imagine significant discrimination. There's gonna be
yes.
significant depictions of really horrible kind of, um, you would imagine the calls of, uh, savage or what have you, and all this
Yes, and,
kind of stuff
this
and being
interracial
bullied.
relationship as well. Um, I think there's also gonna be a subplot of kind of this case, bringing about the forming of the FBI and, uh,
Yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover and all of that. So,
Yeah, because
um
Jesse Plemons, I think, is playing an FBI kind of or Pinkerton agent or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think it is De Niro that kind of interests me a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
For one, he actually looks his age, and he is an old man now, is De
Yes.
Niro. I mean, has he not just had another child at, like,
He did.
79 or something like that?
Yes, he just had a baby. Maybe. Also very fun debate happening between who's hotter, younger him or younger Al Pacino, which has been a really hot debate
I've seen
happening on
that. Yeah, that's
Twitter.
a
Yeah.
well. Let's have that debate when we finish talking about this
Okay,
trailer because
okay.
I'm very into. I am actually very into this trailer because obviously I trust Scorsese with virtually anything because
Yeah.
it's Scorsese and he is. If he isn't he is certainly one of the greatest living directors.
Yes.
100%. If he isn't the top, that his decisions and his wants to make the movies he wants to make should never be questioned. I've seen an interview with him very recently. I think it's only just come out that is kind of very sad. He's had he was speaking about this movie and he was speaking about how he's kind of only now beginning to open up to or he was likening it to something that Akira Kurosawa said in an interview when he won his Oscar when he was
Yeah.
83 years old. And he said, I'm only just now realizing what what cinema can be, what movies can be, and it's too late for me now because he's
Wow.
too and Scorsese was saying in this interview that he remembers seeing that interview with
Mhm.
Kurosawa back when that was, and not understanding what he means. Like, what do you mean?
It's
He
too
now
late. Yeah.
understands,
Yeah.
and he was saying this in this interview. Scorsese was that he now understands that because he feels like it's too late for him now. He's old now. He's
Yeah.
recognizing his own age now. I think
Yeah, he's
Scorsese
feeling it.
and almost, which is really really sad
Yeah,
to
that's
realize to
heartbreaking.
hear that sort of thing as somebody who wants to keep
Doing
making
it.
movies, wants to keep
Yes, and
experimenting
so
with different styles
mhm.
of movies, different types of movies, different stories, the ways of making movies, but recognizing that it's too late for me now.
Oh, that's so
And
sad.
that is heartbreaking, but I think should mean that a movie like this is going to have a lot of quality to it, a lot of
Yeah.
passion and love put into it of what is a really dark story, but
Yes, it
I
looks
can
super
imagine this is
dark.
just going to be a wonderfully weaved tale of just deceit and greed and these big picture kind of themes that you will be dealing with. Like I've said, DeNiro's the one who seems to be playing the shady guy in
Yes, and
this.
it also it's kind of terrifying at the fact that, like, it feels very topical, you know?
It does.
Yes, but also I think it looks great in terms of he's really capturing the air, he's really capturing the tone. Everything looks kind of this gray sepia, kind of like an old photograph of a Native American woman or something.
Yeah.
Um, so
It's very
even just
brown, it's a very
yeah,
brown movie.
even just the tone of how it looked in this trailer really set the stage and set the era for me. So I'm really, into seeing this movie and really it looks like it's going to be great performances and a very dark tone and really delving into a true story that I don't really know that much about. So kind of learning from that and yeah.
The best kind of true story movies. I'm not somebody who, goes after true story after biopic in terms of movies. Very much like fiction.
Yeah.
I very much like kind of out there, heightened fiction that's
Yeah.
clearly
I think
fictional.
I think you have a sensitivity a bit to things that feel too real, especially
I do
especially
sometimes.
on the darker end of things.
I honestly do sometimes, but that doesn't mean to say that I don't really appreciate movies that are that way.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful, wonderful movies that are deeply depressing, that are very, very real, very,
Yeah.
very true to life, that
Yeah.
I do genuinely think are just wonderful, wonderful movies. Not necessarily ones you want to watch every week, but really, really wonderful movies. This style of true story movie, I think, is the best kind, because it has found a very, very interesting, very, I suppose, well, yeah, interesting. I suppose I can't really think of another word. Um, Little, very important bit of history that should be more important than it is, or should feel
Yeah.
more, should have been. More people should be aware of it
Yes, yeah.
than they are. And these are the kind of things you don't want to see, true stories about something everybody knows about, all the time.
Yeah.
No, nobody wants to see that, because that we know about is boring. We know about it. We have our opinions on
Yeah.
that issue, whatever it may be, already. We don't on this, because do we really know about it? This is a researched thing
Yeah.
that they've done while making this movie, that they are going to give so much, not credit to. They're gonna put it on a pedestal and say, here is an issue, deal with it. Let's make this wonderful looking movie, this really admittedly heavy looking movie, but the kind of heavy looking movie that I'm watching this trailer going, I can't wait to see this, not this is going to be too much for me. Because I think Scorsese's able to do these heavy subjects and make them feel so watchable.
Yeah.
And that's just his style of filmmaking. That's
Filmmaking.
just
Yeah.
his ability to create movies, is
Yeah.
to have horribly, sometimes really horribly heavy subject matter, um,
But make it watchable
feel
and,
almost fun, not fun, but it gives it a certain magic, gives it a certain flair.
yeah, it gets you invested and you get really involved in the story. Yeah, and I feel like you talked about, it being something that maybe not a lot of people know about. That's why I think maybe also it reminded me of Wind River, because while it wasn't for land or anything like that, there is a trend in the Native American community of women getting murdered, and it goes unsolved, it goes untalked about. The whole kind of big thing with Wind River was this issue of Native women getting killed, and nobody really caring to look into their murders and things like that. So, um it definitely reminds me of that. And then again, just the topical nature of this story, and kind of what's happening in America right now with the suppression of education and stories like this,
Yeah.
government not wanting these kinds of issues and stories to be talked about or taught in schools. So I love that we're at least getting that in our media, getting that with great filmmakers who don't want to suppress these stories and don't want to suppress this history. So on that end, in an educational sense, because a lot of kids today are not going to get to learn these things because of what the government is trying to do. At least there is a place where we can still be educated and learn about these things, but done in this beautiful, artful way. So,
Yeah. And like I said, just very watchable looking way
yeah.
as well. Not doesn't feel like a boring historical
Yeah.
movie or boring history documentary. Not that I think these kind of things are boring anyway, but they have a certain kind of attitude that goes against them a lot of the time. Um, but it really does look like a fascinating movie. A movie
Yeah.
that is going to, I think, show more respect for Native Americans than virtually any major Hollywood movie has probably ever done.
Yeah.
When you actually think about it, they don't have a great record with Native Americans.
Yeah.
Hollywood. They have a pretty tragically bad
Yeah.
record when it comes to depicting Native American life properly. And I think this one's going to do that particular, group of people such credit by just showing something frankly and having this idea of, can you find the wolves in this picture? Of
Yeah.
being,
I love
can
that
you
line.
find, who is behind the
Yes.
conspiracy almost, the
Yeah. That's
murderous
happening.
conspiracy,
Yeah.
and it's all suppressed, it's all secretive, and you have to fight to weasel,
For the
to
truth.
you have
Yeah.
to fight to pull out the weeds almost.
Yeah.
That's the kind of
Yeah.
attitude. It's going to be such a good movie, this.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
really do think it is. All the applause for Killers of the Flower Moon. We do have another trailer, though. God, we're going to be waffling on today. I hate
I know.
waffling on.
Well, I mean, you did wanna just touch on that debate.
Oh, I did, yes. God, I'm conscious of the time. I hate
Yeah.
waffling. I really do.
We just get so into what we're talking about, and I do kind of love the flow of that. It's Monday Madness, so we just,
It is
flow
Monday.
go
Yes, it
here.
is.
But yes, yeah, there was a very fun debate that was you reminded me of with the talk of this trailer of, yeah, who is hotter in their youth, De Niro or Pacino? Um,
DeNiro. It's not even a
yes,
debate for me. It's
yes.
definitely DeNiro.
I think in the poll itself was like 50-50, but all the videos I've seen are De Niro, and I'm
How
100% De
is
Niro.
it not
Es
DeNiro?
Especially, knowing that De Niro has a thing for the sisters. So,
He
I
does. Yes, he does. Very much so.
Yes. So,
Does he not like
100%.
only exclusively being in like
Um
long-term relationships with
I
black women?
his first one, yes, and then I think and right now, the woman he's had the baby with, I think she is Asian. So, multicultural
Oh,
kinda
okay.
guy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But
You
yeah,
like who you
definitely.
like, Bobby. I don't, you like who you like. You are attracted to who you are attracted to. We can't
Yes. Yeah.
stop that, can we?
And I think you'll appreciate the latest debate now that's happening. I think people are trying to do Paul Newman and Marlon Brando now. So
That's a tough one.
somebody broke it down
I
really
don't know why
well.
I'm getting involved as though I'm
Well,
attracted to these men.
I mean, you are a secure man who can state when you find another man
It's
attractive.
very true. It's very true.
Um,
And
well,
definitely though, De Niro, it's like early 70s De Niro is definitely, I'm just thinking, early 70s De Niro is far more physically good looking than early 70s Pacino.
I
I
think
think
so. I
early
think and
70s
Pacino's more
Pacino
baby
still,
faced a little bit.
he is, he's
Yeah.
boyish. And De
Yes. Yeah.
Niro's got a certain, I think,
Ruggedness.
hard edge to him.
Yes, and I think that's what
Pacino
people
doesn't.
like. He has the curly hair and yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yes, somebody did break down the Newman Brando pretty well. They were like, okay, m- Paul Newman essentially stayed pretty good looking through his whole life,
It's
whereas
very true. Very,
Brando
very
did
true.
not. Also kind of just looking into his hostile kind of work vibe and Newman not really having that, also being a very, consistent in terms of, being with the same woman for his
Paul
whole,
Newman
you know.
is remarkably unproblematic.
Yes.
He is. It's a tough one though because I mean, there's like they're not too similar in age. There's a bit of an age difference, I think, between
Yeah.
Paul Newman and Brando. Maybe 10-ish years, something like that. But you think of A Streetcar Named Desire, Brando is kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
Hollywood hotness at its absolute
Yeah, like he
forefront.
made the T-shirt, which was just an undershirt, he made that a look and a vibe.
But
Um,
I think Paul Newman is a strikingly handsome man, and
yeah,
like you said, did kind of stay that way his entire life.
yeah.
Um, which makes the debate even more fun, I suppose, between De Niro and Pacino as who's more attractive now.
Yeah.
And probably is it still De
Still De
Niro?
Niro, yeah.
Probably is.
Al looks a little crazy. So yes, just to move forward with the show, we can continue.
Yeah,
But yes, that
Brando let himself go.
he
We
did. He
should do
did.
this. We should do this more often.
Yes, maybe we should. Yeah, like that was a really fun debate. I think everyone was having a lot of fun with that. But yes, I recently saw the new one with Newman and Brando as well. So yeah, we might have to kind of create our own because it's
What do
really
you think the
fun.
height of Paul Newman's? Because really, the height of Brando's attractiveness is A Streetcar Named Desire, and then it does start to go downhill for him. Like even a
Yeah,
few years later in On the Waterfront, he's not.
as
He's
yeah,
he's letting himself go even then
just a little bit.
a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
and we can't be considering him attractive when we're in the 70s and after. No,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
yeah.
But Paul Newman had the mustache at times as
Yeah,
well.
and he still looked good with the mustache. And we love an unproblematic king. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes,
I don't know. I don't know with that. It's
it's a
tough.
fun
I
debate.
think
It's a fun debate.
Brando had a better peak, but a tiny peak.
Yeah, it didn't last as long as Newman.
Newman Newman
Yeah.
had the longevity. So I
We'll
think I'd
insert
probably give it
pictures
to
here
Newman.
so you can help us decide. Uh, but moving forward, we do have
Yes,
one more
sorry.
trailer to
We do.
discuss.
We do.
And that is the Haunted Mansion trailer. So this is, I guess, a bit of a redo because the first Haunted Mansion movie did not do so well. And I think maybe it's because it just veered too far away from the funnest elements of the ride. And I know the ride does have some really great characters and stories. I've kind of been finding myself following creators on TikTok who love the parks and know kind of the stories of the Haunted Mansion and kind of give the backstories on some of the ghosts. And so that's been fun to kind of delve into. And yeah, I think that original Eddie Murphy film kind of came up with its whole new story that had nothing to do with anything familiar, and maybe there were nods here and there, but nothing that was really encompassing of the ride. Like even
I don't hate
Pirates.
that Eddie Murphy movie. You know that.
I know, I think people have kind of come around on it now, but I think at the time it didn't do as well as it could because it was so far removed from the ride. Because even Pirates, came up with its own story, but it had a lot of the fun little familiar cues to things that you've seen on the ride. So,
I do think, especially the first one, and I mean, I suppose the second Pirates as well, but especially the first Pirates, is such a competently made adventure
yes,
movie.
yes,
It's such a take itself seriously fun adventure movie that
yeah.
you can't help but be appreciative of it. Eddie Murphy's The Haunted Mansion just wanted to be an Eddie Murphy comedy vehicle, and it was.
Exactly, and you didn't get much that played into, the fun of the ride. So this one looks like it's definitely incorporating the lore of some of these characters and some of these ghosts. You get the
Yes.
Hatbox Ghost and
Yes.
Madame Leota and all this stuff. So,
Where are
yeah,
the
I'm really.
singing heads, though? That was something that Eddie Murphy's did very well.
I mean, they might be in there. I think, we do get a glimpse of the hitchhiking ghosts as well. So I'm curious to see this like the story they make around this house. Kind of love the opening, Rosario Dawson kind of warning Lakeith Stanfield, if you walk in here, your life is going to change. So I'm letting you know. And he's like, I can handle it. And just seeing him in this trailer and his vibe was just very much giving me, this live action Princess and the Frog. It's gonna happen whether we want it or not. So, maybe keep an eye on Lakeith to be your Dr. Facilier because he was definitely giving me those vibes in this trailer, and I could
I
see
think
him
he could
doing.
work as that very
Yeah,
well
yeah,
because he's got the. I think he's got the vibe from it,
yeah,
but he
yeah.
also has the look of it because he's quite. I mean, not to call Lakeith Stanfield gaunt, but he's gangly and thin and kind of
Yeah.
stringy looking, isn't he?
Yes.
And his face is it's unique in the sense that he's able to, I think, do an awful lot without moving his face a great deal.
Yeah.
Quite similar, actually, I think, to his Get Out co-star Daniel Kaluuya. He's able to do so much with his face without moving
Without
it at
moving,
all.
yeah, yes, and I think that's a testament to just good performing and
It really
presence.
is.
So yeah, I'm excited he's kind of seeming to be our lead in this movie. Tiffany Haddish is in it as well.
I think he's
Like
a good crier as well, Lakeith Stanfield.
yes,
He's
yeah,
a very good crier.
as is Daniel, who, did that
Daniel
stone-faced.
Daniel Kaluuya is a quiet crier,
Yeah.
but I think Lakeith Stanfield is a bit more of a he's a bit more theatrical.
Yes,
So
which I think is perfect for this movie, and him kind of
and would
leading.
work as Dr.
So,
Facilier.
I yes, yes. So I'm really kind of curious to see what this story is, why these, because we actually have, like, real people in this house. What, Rosario Dawson's story is like she's the kind of the caretaker of this house, and, Owen Wilson looks like he's some kind of priest, and, um, Tiffany Haddish looks like some kind of medium, so, um interested to see, and it looks like we actually get a real life embodiment of the Hatbox Ghost. Like, he's not, like,
Yeah,
see-through, transparent.
yeah, that's
We
true.
we see, Madame Leota as human Jamie Lee Curtis, and at some point she becomes the head in the in the
Head
in
in the
the,
bowl.
in the crystal ball. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see what the full story is craft, because we kind of just got glimpses of things without really setting up what the core kind of story is. So this was a bit of
My
a
favourite
teaser.
thing, though, it was a bit of a teaser, but my favourite thing is the fact that Danny DeVito is front and centre in this trailer
Yes.
and clearly in the movie. Like, he's getting fully involved,
Yes, and I
and
feel like we haven't seen
I like
him
that.
in a while, like
You probably haven't seen him in a movie since he was in the Dumbo live action
Oh,
remake,
yes, he
wasn't he?
was. He
You probably
was.
haven't seen him since that,
Yeah,
but
so
he's quietening down a little bit, his DeVito, but he comes back and gives it his full throttle
yes.
whenever he is required to. And I
Yeah,
think he's gonna have far more fun in what looks like a genuinely I'm into this.
yeah,
As far as live action, because you can't call it a live action remake, really, can you? Because it's based off the ride. Yes, it already had a movie, so I suppose it's technically a redoing,
yeah.
but it's based off the ride. I don't mind things that are based off the ride.
Yes, no,
I,
like,
I,
I
I,
like, the elevator is, like, my favorite part. I think that's such a cool
that's
thing, and
in
so if
this
we
trailer as
it
well. You see it in
yes,
this
the
trailer.
stretching, yeah, so if we can get into those things. I love the story they've created around Constance Hatchaway, this woman who kills all of her husbands, and we do see a bit of her, a bride with an axe in here. So, yeah, I'm, like, really curious to delve into some of these ghosts specifically, and then what these human characters, how they are incorporated into that story. So, yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I'm really excited to actually see the core story of what this movie is going to be about, but just really seeing so much of the ride in it, which is more than I feel like we got from the Eddie Murphy version, has got me
Definitely.
excited. So,
Even though I have a soft spot for that weird little movie.
I've only
It
seen it
really is.
once, so I don't really remember being that engaged by it. But
Well, I actually remember accidentally paying money on an on-demand television service for that movie as a child
oh,
because I
okay.
was just like, I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I'll have to
yes,
revisit it.
okay, I'll pay. And it was just like, whoa, what you paying to watch movies for? I was like, sorry, I didn't realize.
And
I just wanted to
now
watch the
that's a
movie.
commonplace thing. Um,
Terence Stamp,
Terrence Stamp, yeah.
wonderfully over theatrical. Jennifer Tilly is Madame Leota in that. Who
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis is gonna have to do some job to improve on Jennifer Tilly, I think, because do the voice. I mean,
Yes.
that is what that character sounds like to me. And
Yeah.
is that not a little bit what she sounds like in the ride anyway? Not
Kind
been
of,
on the
yeah.
ride for a long time, but does
Yeah.
she not sound more like Jennifer Tilly than Jamie Lee Curtis? I think so.
From what my mind remembers, yeah. We also see our dueling ghosts. So yeah, I'm really excited to see as much as we saw from the ride in this, and I'm excited. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm into this, which is unusual because these Disney live action movies, we
or
often go,
just
we don't
yeah,
care. Well, what's the point? It's all silly, but we're into this.
yeah,
We're into this, which is fun. Well, let's actually get a little bit into. I mean, we are pushing for time. Let's
yeah,
get a little bit into some rumors of the Superman casting for
yeah.
James
James
Gunn's
Gunn Superman
Superman
movie.
Legacy, which is, of course, going to kick off James Gunn's DC world, DC. What the hell do you call it? DC series? What's the
Yeah,
word
I
that
mean
I'm trying
his
to think
run
of?
of DC films. He's calling kind of this first phase Gods and Monsters.
Oh,
So
that's right.
this will be the movie that he's writing and directing. And so these are just kind of rumored castings that are out there. And some of the
Of
front runners of people. I've even seen a couple of things for Lois Lane as well. So,
Okay, I don't think I've seen anything for Lois Lane.
Miss Maisel herself, Rachel
Oh,
Brosnahan is kind of in talks as potentially being Lois
okay.
Lane.
I
Yeah,
don't hate that.
yeah.
I don't hate that at all. What I do actually quite like about these, or a lot of these, rumors of who James Gunn's Superman, James Gunn's Clark Kent is going to be, is that they're not really big name people. They're not even really
Yeah.
very, very known people.
Well, that's
You
kind of
have
Christopher Reeve and, Henry Cavill were very much the same kinda thing. They weren't super well known, actors when they got cast to
no, at
be
the time,
Superman.
certainly,
Yeah,
probably not, no.
yeah.
But this is, I think, a very,
Brandon
very good
Routh.
thing,
Yeah.
um, because really, I mean, look how much hate every Batman casting gets, you know?
I mean, even
Because they are
yes, with
known already.
Michael Keaton, there was letter writing
But
campaigns, you know?
this is what I mean, because these people are known already, and then they get cast as a famous thing,
Yeah.
which is almost not the way of going about it, even though I think every person who has ever played Batman has done a reasonable job, even Clooney and Kilmer.
Yeah.
You can't
But
really.
like you said, that's a good point. These are all people who had a name before they jumped into this big role, and so
And
people
the
just saw them.
Supermans don't,
Yeah. Yes. That's
which
interesting.
is which seems to have continued here, because yes, okay, these people have been in some things,
Smaller things or
smaller
shows or
things,
1 or 2
smaller
movies that
shows.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily
Stage. Yeah.
you don't necessarily know them by name. I certainly don't know any of these people by name. David Cornsweet, Jacob Elordi, Tom Brittany, and Andrew Richardson seem to be
Yes.
4 names that are continuing to be brought up in terms
Yes.
of rumoured supermen. I think pretty much all of them look the part.
Yeah.
They are clearly very tall, chiseled, handsome men. They're actually noticeably, I think, on the younger side. They're
Yes.
not like
I think
30, 40. They're like 20, 30.
yeah, I think the David Cornsweet guy, he definitely I think people have done some concept art of him, you know, in the Superman gear, and he looks really good. The only thing I know him from, I think most people probably know him from, is Pearl, which I don't think you've been able to see yet. Um,
Oh, stop reminding me.
she meets this kind of skeezy projectionist character, and that's who he plays. Um, so yeah, like just it from general looks, and even, he was very charming in Pearl. So I could definitely see that. And I think he's discussed that this is kind of a dream role for him that he would want to play and what he aspires to play. And he talks a lot about wanting it to be, while he did enjoy the darker kind of tone of Henry Cavill's Superman, which I think is more put on Zack Snyder's vision as opposed to Henry Cavill's choice for the character. He would love to get back to kind of that hopeful, wholesome, you know, um, more spirited version of the character. And so he talks a lot about the way he talks about Superman is as someone who is very passionate about the character and would be excited to play it. So I see him kind of as a front runner, just in terms of look and what I've seen from him, and just kind of hearing the adoration he has for the character, because that's what I loved about Henry Cavill as well, just his love for the character. So despite what the character kind of had to do based off of what the director's vision was, you could tell he still cared about the character. So I think that's definitely necessary for this. And so I think he would be my personal front runner, especially because I don't really know much else about the other actors. I mean, I know Jacob Elordi because I do watch Euphoria. But like he plays a very harsh character in that. So for me, it's very hard to see him as Superman. He has the look, yes, but just kind of not seeing anything else of him but his Euphoria character, and even he was in those kissing booth movies. He's this
Oh,
very
okay.
he's this very harsh, just wanting to beat people up kind of character in both of those. So it's hard for me to see him as this wholesome, smiley, charming kind of thing. Um, so yeah, Mr.
Well,
Corn
look,
Sweet has my vote.
who's to say that playing against type for a major superhero has not had its successes in the
Yes,
past?
it
It
definitely,
certainly
definitely.
has.
I'm not saying it can't work. It's just for me picturing it, I can't picture it. And there are a lot of castings in the past that I couldn't picture, and then once they've done it and
Yeah.
I've seen him in the role, I can't picture anybody else doing it. So any of these men, just based off of kind of how they look, you could see them in the Superman suit. But just I think David Cornsweet is just somebody I kind of, seen enough of, as opposed to the other guys, that I could see it. I could picture it.
All I can say about this is that I am delighted that this profile of actor is being thought of
Yeah,
for
definitely.
this Superman, and because it will cause the least amount of
Discord
rage from
and
people,
unnecessary
which
drama, and just
is
yeah.
just not what you need.
And pull
And
focus away from, this new era of DC that should be really
exactly,
exciting for fans.
exactly.
Yeah.
The best thing this movie can do is not necessarily reverse everything that was done by Snyder's Superman and those things. As I said, I think they are one on their, they are a thing on their own. People still get too over enthusiastic about hating them, and I don't really get it because
Yeah.
it's just a particular interpretation. It's not damaging anybody. It's not hurting anybody. It's just a particular interpretation that I actually think was ultimately, when you watch the entire, meant to, when you watch the entire, get your words out, when you
Yeah.
watch the entire um movies that were in the formats they were meant to be in,
Yeah.
it actually makes perfectly kind of coherent sense, as well as thematic sense.
Yeah.
Cavill's Superman's journey and all that kind of stuff. And I think Cavill was really, really good as Superman. But what Gunn's Superman, I think, should be doing is not reversing all of the genuine, intriguing darkness about that version to just making it light and poppy and I'm Mr. Hope. Because we had that with Reeve. That was Reeve, and Reeve, nobody will do it better than Reeve in terms of just pure
Yeah, because I
goodness.
think
You need a mix.
Brandon Routh also tried to go that route as well. Um, so yeah, kind of we didn't get into the darker version, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a good balance to that or if people do really want to see that light version again.
I want.
Whatever.
I want to see a balance because what is the balance is what will make the movie the most interesting it can possibly be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying completely, go to town on the darkness and go to town on the misery and the difficulty. Don't do that. Don't do that. But don't have it just be simple. And I don't think he will. I'm not questioning
No, he's
what
very
James Gunn's
complex
doing.
in
I
James Gunn,
have
and he's very good at balancing the dark and the light.
He is. I mean,
You
look at what
know,
he's
all
just done with
films exactly.
Guardians,
So
for
much
God's
dark
sake.
emotional stuff in that film, but also this light, fun tone and being able to go from a very dark moment to a very silly moment seamlessly. So I think if anyone's going to be able to balance those 2 sides, it'll be him. So, I'm excited, and also I think there was talk of Nicholas Hoult, potentially being up, but some outlets are saying that he was up for Superman, and others are saying he's up for Lex Luthor. I've been, told that he was, second behind Pattinson to play Matt Reeves' Batman. So,
Which is
um
weird when you think of that, isn't it? It's
yeah,
very weird when you think of Pattinson as Batman
the
and that
Batman
original
yes, that first
casting,
original
and it
thought just felt
it
very weird.
worked so well
It
in that
yes.
movie.
So I could definitely see Nicholas Hoult as Lex, especially if we're going for a younger Superman. To have a contemporary Lex would be great, and after kind of what he did in The Menu, um, I think
Yeah.
he would be a great Lex Luthor, so I would love
I've
to
always
see that from him.
I'm sure I
But
said this when we were talking about Renfield. Nicholas Hoult is a wonderful weasel,
he
and Lex
is
Luthor, ultimately, he's a bit of a weasel.
a little bit.
Yes, he has presence, and I think Nicholas Hoult would be such a good balance of genuine, intelligent presence and just connivingly cunning weaseliness.
Yeah.
I just think he'd be great at doing that. I think he would be a wonderful Lex Luthor and not a good Superman.
Yeah, I don't see him as Superman, but I could actually see him as Lex. So yeah, those are kind of just what's out there right now in terms of casting. None of this is confirmed. James Gunn, obviously out of respect for these actors, he's not going to,
Yeah.
he said he's not going to comment on what people audition for because that's their personal business. So yeah, I think they plan on starting filming in January, so I'm sure closer to that time that's when we'll get official news of casting for sure. But if whatever's in the running, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking kind of the tract of what potentially is being thought of for these characters. So yeah.
So am I. So am I, definitely. It's exciting. Now, let's finally turn our entire attention to Fast and Furious. As Janine, I did think you wanted to just give a little
Yes.
bit of a non-spoiler review on
Yes.
Fast X, as I haven't seen it yet because of the time we are having to record this week's show.
Yes. So hopefully we can do a separate spoiler review for you guys once Morgan has had a chance to see the movie. But for now, I just saw the movie today, and yeah, it's bonkers like every other Fast movie. I did enjoy it a lot more than 9. I think 9 just I don't know, it wasn't as entertaining as the other films. Um this one was a lot of fun, but again, kind of all over the place. I've heard I've heard people we've been talking about DC characters. I've heard people refer to Jason Momoa's villain here as the Joker of the Fast franchise.
Oh dear.
And, once you see it, that's not a too far comparison. He's a very manic and taking light in his destruction, just very silly and a bit morbid and very sinister, but doing it in this kind of laughing at everything way. So he's very much projecting this Joker energy, which I didn't expect Jason Momoa to be able to pull off, but he felt believable in the fact that he was enjoying himself. He was having fun, just kind of relishing in this villain character. It is set up for him to more, his goal is more to not kill, but to ruin lives and punish, as opposed to outright killing. So he
What
wants
does
to
he have to
inflict.
punish them for?
Well, if you watch the trailer, he is you're led to believe that he is the son of the guy from the drug lord that, from Fast 5, where they stole his safe.
Okay.
And, they kind of recreate those scenes showing that he was there the whole time.
Okay.
Yes, and even on the bridge when his father is killed, he was blown into the water, and
I
so
see. I
he
see.
wants revenge for the death of his father. And so even just kind of them recreating that scene and throwing him in there was very much kind of like what they did with Tokyo Drift and throwing Shaw in there and and all of that.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
and it was nice to see Paul Walker again. It was nice to see Brian again. So just in the recreation of that moment, we got to see a little bit of Brian. So I thought that was nice.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, kind of the events lead us to kind of have our characters be separated. So we're getting a little too many branch storylines, a little too many characters to have to follow because they're not together in this. They're all kind of scattered. So it gets a little busy in terms of trying to follow these characters here and these characters there and these characters trying to do this and these, so it's a lot. They're a lot. The family is big, so it's
Is it
very
balanced well?
in moments. Like, it's interesting to see characters interact or characters in these groupings because usually they are all together. So getting to kind of see characters be in different these specific groupings is kind of interesting to see in moments. But other times it just feels very it's very busy and it's hard to kind of focus on the story when you have so many things kind of happening and you're introducing new characters on top of kind
Yeah.
of trying to enjoy the characters that are there. So it's a lot going on. It's coherent, it's easy to follow, but it's just a lot of directions you have to kind of look in and remember, "Oh, yeah, that was what they were doing the last time we saw these characters. Oh, yeah, I forgot about them over here." Oh, so it's kind of like you have to bounce your attention around, but they still manage to make it coherent enough, but you have to kind of remind yourself and check, "Oh, yeah, that's what was going on over here." Um, but I found myself very entertained. I had fun with Jason Momoa's villain. I will say it does, obviously Vin Diesel has announced they want to split this into like two more parts. So I think it's
Yeah.
it's fair to say that this does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. If you are going to see it, there is no end credits, but there is a mid credit, so stick
Okay.
around. So we do get some surprises in there. Um,
That I think a lot of people know what the surprises are because
yes,
social media has ruined
that has
surprises. We
yes,
won't do it here,
no, no, but I have been kind of spoiled on some things as well. So
as
I'm
have
not gonna
I.
say them here, but, um, yes. Generally, yeah, I definitely had a lot more fun with this than I did with 9. When I first watched 9, I found myself kind of just zoning out and not really paying attention, but I obviously did a full rewatch and watched it again. And yeah, I got more enjoyment out of it this time, but it's still I just did not have as much fun with it as I did or was entertained as much as the other films. So this one is definitely more entertaining. We do get a bit of street racing, so we're not losing that aspect.
Yes,
But
finally.
obviously, yes. So yeah, overall a lot of fun, a lot of new characters to meet. I think they it makes it a little bit long because we do have to kind of get moments with these characters along with moments with our old characters. I think I know they had some issues with Justin Lin leaving halfway through kind of the directing process and having to find a different director. Um, so even with that and those issues, they still were able to create a coherent story that fits into this world. Um, and I think they worked in I think it was smart to connect this movie to probably the best movie in the series, which is I think a lot of
Yeah.
people see as 5, um, connecting it to a moment of this franchise that was like peak. So, connecting it to that, I think helped make it more entertaining. Um, but yeah, a lot going on, but it's definitely fits to the soapy energy of what these
Okay.
movies do in
Okay.
terms of story. Solid action and some great action set pieces that are completely ridiculous and heightened way more, just keeping with the trajectory of what these set pieces do. They
So you're
definitely
telling me
continued that.
you're telling me that this movie goes more than what 9 did when it sent Roman and Tej to space?
um I'll say I don't think it did more, but it definitely stayed on the level of
Wow,
of
okay.
what these last few years have been. I don't think they upped it, but I think they managed to keep up the craziness
Okay.
of some of these things. We get a lot of cool, great hand-to-hand combat kind of sequences and
Not
fights.
with Vin Diesel,
So
sure. With Vin Diesel, hand to hand, he looks like he can't move quick enough. He
well, no, not really Vin, but other characters get some good,
other characters.
because doing this rewatch, I forgot that they actually set up Han and Roman to really not not be the best fighters, but they actually seem like maybe in between the years they've picked
Okay.
some things up. So, um, yeah, Ramsey, she gets to fight as well. I think is her name, right?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, she gets to do little fighting as well. Charlize is in there, it's in the trailer. Her and Letty get a big fight sequence as well. I
Oh,
really liked
okay.
Brie Larson. She had some great outfits, I will say, and she was very cool in her scenes. So really enjoyed Brie Larson. She was kind of a little badass in her moments. So, yeah, I enjoyed the new characters, but
Well,
yeah,
John Cena will be doing the hand-to-hand combat, won't he? Course he will. This is what
yes,
John Cena's made an
yes.
entire life of doing.
Um, and we do get a bit of Mia in there as well.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
uh, if you I don't know if I
I feel
wanna
like
say
she was
anything.
missing from 9. Was she in
She
9?
was there, she actually had quite a bit to do in 9, more than
Which
she's
one
ever
was she
had to
missing
do.
from?
She kind of comes in, 8? She wasn't really
8.
in 8.
She might have been missing from 8. They
Yeah.
merge together as one thing sometimes.
Yeah, she wasn't really in 8, but she comes back in 9, especially 'cause, that John Cena is her brother as well. So, um
Oh, that's right, and there's the child as well. Yes, 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 yes,
yes,
yes,
and
yes.
Dom's child. So, yeah, we're introduced to a ton of new characters along with our old ones. So it's a lot to focus on, but overall, I had fun with it. Like I said, does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm really kind of excited to see how they kind of continue on this story. Um,
Yeah,
and
why they
yeah,
are doing, we don't know, just finish it. I mean, the reasoning behind it being that, oh, well, technically, if it's a 2 or 3-part finale, there's still 10 movies, so we always
right.
wanted to do
Technically, it's
10
10 because we want
movies.
it. Yeah, so they're kind of trying to
Just
cheat
do
the
it as
fact that they
10
want.
movies, Vin.
Yes, so they kind of just cheated the fact that they kind of always put this stamp of 10 on it. I will say also, I wish they would've worked in Brian not being there better or Brian's kind of presence better, than they did. So
I'm intrigued by that, but maybe I won't push you further until we actually get into,
yeah, I mean, it's not a big thing, obviously, because, what are they gonna do? He's not
he
there.
he's
But
not there.
yes,
We
but
know
I
he's
wish
not
they
there.
kind of would have found more creative because I loved at the end of 9, Oh, empty chair, he's on his way, and he pulls into and you see his car pull into the driveway.
Oh, I see, I see, I
Yes.
see. So
So I
so
wish they
I
would've
see.
I
No,
wish
I
they
see
would've
what you mean now.
yes, I wish they would've worked around explaining why he's not there or made his presence be felt a little bit more in some kind of creative way, as opposed to some character saying, "Oh, he's busy. Oh, he's with the kids. Oh, he's" you know,
I
that kind of thing.
I realize what you meant now. I didn't think you meant just, a character said, "Brian's not here because he's at the shops," or something like,
Yeah,
like that. I
that's
didn't
kind
think
of
you
what
meant
they
that.
do.
I
Yeah.
thought you meant, like, they were there was a big reason, for some reason.
No, 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 no.
I always forget that Brian's actually still alive, when,
Yes. Yeah.
technically, even though obviously the act
Yeah, yeah. So I
it's
wish they would
a
have just kind of
horrible situation, but
found create more creative ways to explain Brian's absence, you know?
I see, I see.
Yeah. Because I really
The best
liked,
way of doing it is like
that was yeah, what they did at the end of 9 was great. Oh, he's on his way, he pulls into the driveway, so we feel him. But here we didn't really feel him, but I love that we got to see him when they kind of recreated the big kind of finale of Fast 5. So,
yeah, good, okay,
yeah.
nice. Well, let's actually get into a bit of a let's talk now, because we did want to, give our rankings of the
Yes.
Fast and Furious movies. A difficult task, really, because the middle ones merge into one movie for me.
Yeah.
And not the middle ones in the series, I mean the middle ones in my rankings. Some of the middle ones in the series kind of merge
Okay.
into one movie, and I have to remind myself what exactly happened in certain movies and things like that.
Yes, because they all kind of blur together at a certain point. But, are we gonna do our typical wait until
Yeah, let's
kind of
just
thing?
let's blast through them. We've got a top 9.
Okay.
We're obviously we've not counted Fast X, because still only you have seen it, as we've just
We also didn't count
discussed. We've
Hobbs and
not
Shaw because
we've not
the
counted
the
Hobbs
events
and
of
Shaw
Hobbs and
because
Shaw
we
don't
don't
really
care.
affect the plot of these movies. So, yeah, we're just talking 9 movies. There were also 2 short films, so, you can people will probably
Oh,
be in the
there are,
comments.
yes, of course.
The 2 little short films explaining, Dom and Letty in Mexico or Brazil and, um, and the supercharged prelude of how Brian got from LA to Miami. So those little short films.
Yes, they were shorts to fill the time between 1 and 2, and was it 4 and 5?
um Between yeah, yes, yeah. Well, because technically yes, because I'm like 3 is now kind of 7. Tokyo Drift is actually
Well,
kind of
yeah, I'm
yeah.
not whenever time happened, I don't know,
Yes.
because that's
So
just
this yeah,
stupid the way
so
they did the
the little
time
short
thing.
film that Vin Diesel directed is before the events of 4.
Before the events of 4.
Yes.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yes, let's go through, um, with our number 9, that is
It's
it's
probably the
probably
same.
not actually the same, but it's probably is the same thing,
Yeah.
actually. What is your number 9, Janine?
My number 9 is Tokyo Drift.
My number 9 is also Tokyo Drift. It is. It's a strange movie.
Yes. I
I
do
hate Lucas Black so much, and his
I mean,
stupid voice.
I like him. I I I don't hate Lucas Black, but
No, I don't
it's
hate
just
him, but
so
you know what I mean.
yes, it's so very separate from everything. Um, I like the kind of repurposing of it very much like Thor: The Dark World being the worst Thor movie and then Endgame kind of making it special, making Dark World required watching and giving some more to that movie that wasn't great. So I like that, even though it's makes no sense in terms of timeline and how people look and the phones people read the technology of the time. I like that they repurposed this movie that felt so separate and tried to integrate it back into the main. timeline. So I appreciate it for that, but in and of itself, it's the weakest one. It just feels very separate. It doesn't move the kind of craziness of these stories forward. So
It
just
obviously
for
gave us Han, who everybody loves,
yes, yeah.
but it's a strange. It tried to do its own thing, and I think it would probably be looked back on more fondly had the Fast and Furious movies become more like Tokyo Drift, and you had the Fast and the Furious, you had Too
Yes.
Fast, Too Furious, you had Tokyo Drift, and then perhaps from 4 onwards to whatever they may have gone to, it was with a bunch of other people in South Africa, a bunch of other people in
Another part of the
Argentina,
world.
or
Yeah, and their style
wherever.
of racing or whatever.
Yeah, that would
Yes.
have I think that would make us look back more fondly on Tokyo Drift, but it it is the weakest one, and I think
And it's
that's all
so
that needs
separate
to be
from this
said.
very tight continuity. So, I like
Yeah.
that they did try to work it in there, but generally the movie as a whole, it feels very just separate from everything. So,
Well, number 8
for
in our
me
ranking.
is the 4th film, Fast and Furious.
Oh, well, I have that one much higher, actually.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
My number 8 is Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh, I have that way higher.
Of course you do. And number 7?
Fast 9.
Yes, same.
Okay.
Yes.
Which I did get into a little bit in my spoiler-free review. Just was not very exciting. I mean, I don't even think I saw this one in the theater. And so I bought it thinking, "Oh, I'm excited," and even just kinda getting that little tease of Lucas Black being it and Bow Wow, like, I'm like, "Oh, that's cool they brought them
So
back."
stupid.
Um and then, yeah, just I don't know if it was just the going to space or just the action sequences weren't as dynamic or the story itself just was, um, kind of very meandering and, um, it felt like I don't know, it just wasn't as entertaining as the other ones. I think the story of it felt kinda too complicated, like the mission that they had to do, and then I liked that we maybe got some insight in the past of Dom's, history with his dad, and this brother seemed to come out of nowhere.
Very
So
much so.
so that felt, I don't think they did a good enough job, really warranting, this character who's supposed to kind of be this big part of his life, just not even being mentioned or thought about, or, it just felt very much out of nowhere, bringing in this very integral character to Dom's life. Um, so I think that kind of made it feel a little bit sloppy, and then you kind of have this whole side plot of Cypher coming back and her motives and,
I mean, I really do like Cypher
I do
as
like
the
her,
villain.
but, how they worked her into this story just felt kinda, she didn't really have much to do. Um, and,
I just think
she
what
finally
9
when it's the moment to actually do something, she's, like, immediately kinda defeated,
yeah.
you know?
What 9 did was perpetuate a lot of the stupidity of the Fast and Furious movies,
Yeah.
and just allow people to watch complete nonsense on screen because they
Yeah.
finally went to space. And it's just like that was always a joke that people said,
Yes, and
and
then
they
they
actually just
actually did
did it.
it. Yeah.
But because they're clearly aware of that joke, they were clearly aware of that joke. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, why not do it? We're at the stage now where we can literally
Yes,
get
and
away
so it took
with doing
away
anything in our movies.
yes.
So it's less of a. I don't think you can remotely take 9 seriously, and I don't think I will be able to remotely take Fast X seriously. But because that's just where the movies are in the world's mindset
Yes,
these
and I
days.
think what makes these movies so fun is the way they are in on the joke is that they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
So the fact that they, actually went to space was them not taking it seriously or playing it seriously. Um, and just kind of playing into the goofiness of it. But when you have this story that is very far-fetched, but your characters are really invested and are taking it wholeheartedly seriously, I think that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it they know it's ridiculous, but they are putting their all into it like this is really happening. I think that's what makes these movies so fun and you can kinda just go with it. But when they kind of wink at the camera, then it kind of pulls that curtain,
Yeah.
a
And
little bit. So,
I don't get me wrong, I had fun with 9, but it's certainly on the weaker end,
yeah,
which is why I think it fits nicely into the 7th
7th
spot, and we
spot.
both have it
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
Number 6, Janine.
Fate of the Furious, so the 8th one.
Oh, see, I'm higher with Fate of the Furious.
Wow.
I quite like
Okay.
Fate of the Furious.
Okay. Um,
Um, that's my number 6 is actually The Fast and the Furious, the first
okay.
movie.
Well, that is my number 5.
Okay, well, let's talk about that one then. Now, yes, the rip-off of Point Break that it is, it's pretty good. It's at least grounded. It's at least a genuine, interesting kind of action movie. It's
Yes.
very dated. It's incredibly
Oh, very.
2001.
Yeah, but just that relationship, you see him really bond with these people and, his whole relationship with Mia, and then having to, hide that and the kind of struggle he has to deal with in terms of turning in people that he's bonded with. Um, I will say I've loved for Paul Walker, now seeing them, recently back to back to back to back, him really grow as an actor in these movies because this first one, his acting was not great. You can tell he's an actor who was very green, but because of how good looking he was, that's what kind of got his foot in the door. So this one, he's not the best actor, but even by the end of the movie, you see him doing a little bit better than he was by the start. And once we get deeper into the franchise, I think he like becomes a solid actor throughout this
He
franchise.
does. He does.
Um, but even him not being the best actor, I think he feels like a real person enough that like you feel like the conflict that he's dealing with and the stress he's dealing with in having to, you know, potentially turn in these people who he's starting to care about. And I like the bond that
Yeah.
forms between him and Vin. Vin is great in this movie. As very commanding but caring and having that loyalty but still being tough. Um
Really,
so
my favorite thing about the movies themselves, and we obviously don't get it anymore, but is the Brian and Dom friendship. It obviously starts in The Fast and the Furious, and because it has that Point Break edge of, is it just all a fake out? Is it just all
yeah.
a ploy on Brian's side just to infiltrate? No, it's actually not by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's actually genuine. Just you feel that. I feel like I remember really feeling that from the first movie. Um,
Yes.
and it does feel so different. I mean, Too Fast, Too Furious is like that as well. They do feel so different to what we get, nowadays
Going
with
yes.
Fast and Furious.
Just so ground like
But
this literally started with stolen DVD
right,
players, and now
right.
they're doing espionage and shit. Um, but yes, I mean, I enjoy this first movie for what it was. Really, was impressed with Vin Diesel as an actor. Just kind of, he has his niche and what he does well, and I think this is what he does well, despite how corny kind of a lot of his profound lines are. They feel very, they're actually
He
they make a
believes
lot of
them.
sense.
He
And
believes them.
yes, and he has a code and you love a character with a code and who sticks to that code. And I love that. So, this first movie to see what it's become just from this movie. And I saw Vin Diesel, I think, on the Kelly Clarkson shows talking about him and Paul just sitting in an airport and people like walking over them, and they had just, I think, finished this movie. And Paul telling him, wait till this movie, enjoy this moment of anonymity. Because as soon as this movie comes out, we're
Yeah.
not going to have that. And just the fact that he believed in this movie so much before it even came out that he could turn to Vin and say that, you know, and knowing how much he cared about this and what the potential he saw in, and every movie Vin kind of said after every premiere, there would be, so it would just be the two of them walking out. No one else would be around them. And they would talk about how many more can we do? We can definitely do another one. We can definitely do another one, because they believed in it so much. So, knowing that and then kind of watching this movie just makes it feel kind of special seeing what it was able to become. So yeah,
Well, this is what I mean.
in terms of
This is what I mean
quality of
when I say that
movie
is
and
why.
what we've seen since then, I think that other films have been able to do it better, and obviously, like I said, Paul Walker's performance has been better, but
They
I
have.
think in the middle of the road, this movie, I think, is solid. So,
Yeah, it's where it belongs. It belongs in the middle.
yes.
Um, it's good. It's very time capsule-y. It's
Yeah.
very of its time.
Yes. Yes.
But it does, at its heart, it has what is the heart of the Fast and Furious movies, and it is that bond between those two lead characters. And it presents that very, very strongly. And every car in the movie's horrible apart from Dom's car, as
Yes,
it
you love
always usually
yes,
is.
you are, you're not a person, you're not a gearhead, but you have a fondness for the muscle cars as opposed to the kind of
Dom's Dodge Chargers. Yeah.
great.
Every other
Yes.
car that's ever been in Fast and Furious
You're just
movies,
like, "No,
no,
thank you."
we don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Um, my number 5, that, number
Yeah,
1 was your number 5. My number 5 is 4, is Fast and
Fast and
Furious.
Furious. Okay.
Um, really because I just remember, again, it's for very similar reasons, I suppose, to what I like about 1, is it's the bond between the two of them. And
Yes, the
because
coming
we haven't then
together.
had that for 3, for the 2
Yes. Yeah.
movies, it's nice to have that back. You feel that it's more of a true Fast and Furious movie. It's starting to get on the level of, oh, we're dealing with drug lords now.
Yes, so, like, for me,
Okay.
aside from their kind of coming back together and us seeing them together, for the first time since that first movie and them rebuilding that relationship, it's kind of forgettable.
It's a
Everything else
little
kind of
bit
going on,
forgettable.
our villain, everything else just feels quite forgettable aside from their coming back together. So
Maybe I'm just focusing on that a lot because I don't think it's enormously memorable, but I think it's certainly a level of better, more well-made action movie that becomes more slightly more over the top, yet still remains not
more grounded
crazy,
like the
still
original
remains not
film.
absolutely insane.
Yes.
Has them come back, into each other's lives, Brian and Dom, and really the bond is there, the friendship
Yeah.
is so very strong. The team begins to grow large.
Yeah, I mean, this is the movie where we get Gal Gadot, so
It is, I think, a very, very good movie. Yes, okay, it's not as memorable as some of the other ones. It's probably not even as memorable as ones I've got lower down. Too Fast, Too Furious, for example, I think is probably more memorable. It's just silly. But I do remember appreciating 4 for giving me an indication of where the movies were going, while still taking itself actually seriously, while being still a good, solid action movie
Yeah.
that wanted to, it didn't want to be silly yet. It didn't want to be over theatrical yet. It just wanted to be fun and action heavy.
Yeah.
And I like that about
Okay.
Fast and Furious.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well, your number 4.
My number 4 is Fast 7. Fast and Furious 7.
Furious
Or
7.
Furious 7, yes.
No, mine. I'm higher with Furious 7.
Oh,
Actually, I'm
okay.
higher with Furious 7.
So what's your
My
number 4?
my number 4 is number 6, which is called what?
I mean, it's Fast and
Called?
Furious 6.
Fast and Furious 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, the British one. The British one.
Yes. That is my number 3.
Okay, so that works. We'll
Yes.
talk about that now.
Yes, I mean, I just had fun with this bizarro version of our team, because
Yes, we do get
they
that.
really set up the big family team aspect in 5, and so and people loved that, seeing all these different facets. It's like when you get your different friend groups together. For the first time. Like you have your friends from work and your friends from your college classes and your friends from childhood, and they all come together to hang out with you
And
for the first time.
somehow get along.
Yes. So it's like it was kind of like that with 5, and I think people really loved that. So getting to see this team continue on, and even Roman really calling that out, like that was one of the funnier scenes to me, that he's like, they're like us. Like this is White Hobbs. This blonde girl is you, Brian. And this is Tej with a beanie. Like,
Yes.
I love that we got this bizarro world version of our loved team. So I thought that was kind of a cool dynamic, that you have these people who are a direct challenge to our team. So I thought that was a really cool aspect. Seeing Hobbs kind of really become part of the team as well. I think Letty coming back and having her not really remember, and seeing where she fits into remembering, and him Dom being very devoted to trying to make her remember him.
And that's
So
what is a standout, I think, from 6 for me, is the Letty stuff, because I actually think it's really well handled for
yeah.
a movie series that has now at this point turned to silliness and
Yes,
over
very soap opera in
theatricality.
terms of, bringing people back from the dead and all of that
Back from
kind
the
of.
dead.
Yeah.
It does actually treat it really quite emotionally, and I appreciated it about that. I really do quite like, the Shaws as a
Yeah, introducing
family.
that family. Um, so we do get, Luke Evans in here. He's not a super strong villain, but he's menacing enough, and,
He
you know,
works in the role.
and attractive enough in terms of, how he is with Letty, and their kind of scenes together of him, you know, feeling like she owes him something and
Yeah, I
kind of
feel like it's
controlling
quite
her
a
in that way.
dark movie at times as well. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the darker Fast and Furious movies. Maybe that's its British sensibilities, because a
And
lot
I
of it
do.
is London-based.
Oh, yes, yes. And, I like that, I like the fast movies that still, don't forget where it started, and still do at least give us a focused racing kind of
Yeah.
moment. Uh, so, I appreciate when the movies don't veer away from that and still give us a fun kind of racing moment, with our characters, so they don't kind of forget their roots, which we do get in this movie. So yeah, I liked the kind of team versus team type aspect, the big kind of crazy runway finale that happens.
Yes.
We do get we suffer some emotional losses with Giselle, and what that does to Han. So, there feels like there are some stakes there, because obviously, I think we know that something's gonna happen to Giselle, because Han ends up in Tokyo alone. So I
Yeah.
think we already kind of, so it was just like a build up to see how that was going to happen. Um, but yeah, and I like what that leads to later with Deckard Shaw and him having to get revenge for his brother and all of that. So I like what it sets up. I like the dynamic of the characters. I like Hobbs being more in the story. I like that they don't veer away from the, race car stuff, like racing, and they do bring that element in even just a little bit. Great action sequences, the hand-to-hand fight between Gina Carano and Michelle Rodriguez was solid in the tube. So yeah, I really have a lot of fun with 6, especially coming out of 5 and having so much fun with 5, and then still seeing this team kind of continue on. Because I think that's kind of the last time we really get that solid version of this team. I mean, we get it in 7, but kind of, now we're missing some people. So
Yeah, we seven's such a strange one. We'll obviously get on to talking about 7.
yeah.
But you are right. I think it's almost peak team 6,
Yeah.
almost, because everybody's there from 5 plus
Mostly. Yeah.
more, mostly.
Yeah. Plus Hobbs now being kind of more ingratiated on their
Yeah.
side.
Plus Hobbs
So
being an actual member of the team.
yeah.
So it is. You are probably right in saying that, but no, for me, it is the darkness of it. It is the Letty stuff. It is the controlling nature of that, and Luke Evans being that, and it really all being about, we have to go and save Letty.
Yeah.
I like that sort of stuff. I think it's why, getting into my number 3, I think we're on now, or your number 3. What's your number 3? Was that 6?
That was so my number 4 was 7, but you said you had 7 higher, right? And
Yes.
then yes, so 6 was my number 3.
So my number 3 is Fate of Furious.
Okay.
But in a similar sense, because it's Dom now that's the one
Oh yes.
under mind control.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I really did like that. I really genuinely like. I think it's my fondness for Fate of the Furious. I think comes from Cypher, comes from Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
I think
having
she's
this kind of
really
badass
strong.
female villain,
But
and
it's
some
the
revelations
core.
here. Mhm.
Like after the end of Furious 7, obviously Paul Walker's unfortunately passed away. Brian's away. No more
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel is now the one. And the very next movie, they drag him away from the team and
Yeah,
turn him on
separate
them.
him. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very good to me. I love that.
That was a
Story
very
point.
soapy and surprising, like a solid, interesting thing to change things up so that things
I
don't get
really
stale.
like it. I
Yeah.
think it works
You're right.
well.
You're right.
The change back, yeah, okay, the change back's a little bit, we kind of have to do it. It's a bit weak. But the original scenario of having Dom's team have to face Dom
Yeah.
is wonderful to me. I think Fate of the Furious is very fun in terms of its chases. Isn't that the one with the big glacier chase at
Yes, on
the
the
end?
ice and the submarine and the
And the
torpedoes
submarine.
and yeah.
I love that. It's nonsense. I really like it. Cypher's such a strong villain. The switch of Vin Diesel, actually having Vin Diesel try and act a bit because he has to do something a little bit different than what he's been doing all the other movies.
Yes, we do
Is
get a
interesting.
revelation. We get some tears from him because,
We
it's
do.
revealed Elena and his son, and,
Yes,
Elena gets
yes.
killed and, all of that, it really sets up Cypher as a brutal villain, just killing Elena right in front of him like that.
Yeah.
And then, we do get that fun scene of Deckard, killing a bunch of dudes and fighting while he's carrying around the baby, and the fact that they recruit him to help save, his son, and that's when Deckard kind of, gets on the good side, and also bringing Luke Evans back because I'm really
Yeah.
fond of, really sticking to the continuity, like we talked a little bit about with Mission Impossible, how, you revisit the past because, you like some things from earlier iterations of something, and when you feel like maybe that's been forgotten, but then they find a way to bring it back, which this franchise does a lot of. So to bring Luke Evans back and that character into the mix, I thought was a fun little thing to actually see these, all this stuff that Deckard's doing for his brother, and we get to see their dynamic together a little bit in this movie. So yeah, there were a lot of fun moments. Cypher's a good villain. Um, just I feel like I have more fun with some other movies a little bit higher up. So why I didn't have it too high from the top. But I do, like you said, appreciate the twist of Dom kind of, having to be what our team goes up against. I think that's a really smart way to keep it from getting stale.
Yeah, it is. I really like that aspect of the fate
Okay.
of the Furious. I really do.
Okay.
Number twos then, Jeannine. Your number two is
Oh my
number
God.
2, isn't it?
My 2 is Fast 5.
You're tough, for goodness sake. Right. Okay. Well, my number two is Furious 7.
Okay.
I hate the fact that your number 1 is that ridiculous movie. My number 2 is Furious 7. Again, really, really strong villain, because Deckard is your big bad in that. He is the one out for revenge.
Yes, but like on top of that, then I think all the stuff with the God's Eye, and I think that's where we get Kurt Russell and our Mr. Nobody, which I also forgot to bring up in 8. I did not like the the Scott Eastwood trying to be Paul Walker character, little nobody thing.
Yes.
So I forgot to mention that in my criticisms of 8. I didn't like, Scott Eastwood trying to be a Paul Walker. Like, I felt like, why are you doing this? Like, just,
no, not necessarily.
But yes, this is where we get Mr. Nobody. But I will say, like, then they also tried to introduce another villain with Jaimin Hansu and him trying to get God's Eye and all of that. So that,
sure, but who remembers that? We're here for Deckard, sure.
Yeah, so but he, like, is not even, like, your main villain. He's just kind of coming in every once in a while and, like, causing a little bit of trouble. So those aspects, the villain aspect, I think, is just weak for me in this, because you have Deckard kind of coming in every once in a while and, like, screwing things up, which I think I saw something that said he only had, like, 18 lines in the whole movie.
Well,
So it's
Jason
literally
Statham. I mean, you don't want him speaking a lot.
So it's literally him just popping in and kind of causing trouble and then them getting away. And then they're trying to set up Jaimin Hansu as our big bad, but we don't even barely remember him. So the villain aspect was not strong for me, but I mean, the driving the car through the buildings was insane.
Yes.
And
we like that. It's absolutely stupid.
Even the task of having to write around Paul's death in that, I mean, I think they originally had some loose ideas, because when Paul is actually physically there, we do get a lot of dialogue about him stepping away, him and Mia stepping away, because now they have children, and them kind of using those little nuggets to actually make that the whole impetus for why Brian needs to kind of step away. And so the way they were able to kind of story-wise work around that, finding out that Letty and Dom are married, and I loved that idea that he didn't want to tell her. You can't tell someone they love you, and he wanted her to figure it out. He was patient enough to let her figure it out on her own instead of telling her. So I like that aspect of their relationship and her kind of finally remembering things. Very crazy with the street fight. The street always wins, and him literally like stomping and breaking a whole parking garage, and the craziness that ensues. And but I love the scene of Hobbs just like cracking his arm out of that cast. Like, just some very fun imagery in this one. But I think the villain aspect just kind of takes it down for me, because they're just not very strong considering what we've gotten in other films. So
I don't necessarily disagree. I just think I like the driven revenge aspect of Deckard in that. Like you said, it kind of finalizes Letty's comeback to reality, which it was a plot point I loved from 6. And I remember watching them for Morgan Hasn't Seen and being obviously very, very familiar with the ending of Furious 7 with the
The
annoyingly
song.
horrific song
Yeah.
that I still do just vehemently dislike that song. I think it's a grating, horrible,
Well, we do get little
awful song.
twinkles of it in 10. It's just
Oh, God.
score-wise, score-based, not the actual
Not the
song.
as long as it's not the singing.
No.
Can't be
No
doing
Charlie
that
Puth.
voice.
No Charlie Puth here.
But
But
obviously, me being so familiar with that ending, prior to having any knowledge of Fast and Furious whatsoever, because of Paul Walker's death, because of the genuine kind of emotional parting of
yeah,
him
how they
from the
handled that was
franchise,
really
him,
beautifully
yes,
done.
him from the franchise, and of course him in real life passing on. The fact of me watching the end of that movie, having already known the end of that movie, when we watched it for Morgan Hasn't Seen, and actually feeling the emotions I was in, I was led to believe the populace felt at that time watching
Yeah.
this remarkably successful movie, because it was at that point an enormously, like, 4th biggest movie ever or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. I never thought Fast and Furious would do that to me before watching them
Yeah.
for Morgan Hasn't Seen. I
Me even
never thought,
rewatching it, I got emotional in that kind of goodbye and seeing the
yeah,
montage of Paul's whole
yes,
history in the films and,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
But I never thought it would do that to me, because I'm a stubborn, horrible, hating person on these
Yeah.
movies. And it did. So I
Yeah.
give Furious 7 a hell of a lot of credit for pulling that off. It's probably more of a personal choice than actually, I think 6 is probably a better movie,
Yeah.
but this is a personal choices.
Yeah. I
And I have to give Furious 7 a lot of credit for actually being able to make me feel for the Fast and Furious movie.
right? To really hit yeah, like, I got teary-eyed watching that, after having seen it so many times, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my number one is Fast 5, which I
Yes.
think is most people's number ones. We've
Yes.
spoke about Fast 5 throughout this ranking. I think it's the peak in terms of quality
Yeah.
of Fast and Furious movies, because it is the perfect balance, I think, of the over theatricality that will come after and the groundedness that came before. Really, really great action, exotic location in Brazil, the drug lord aspect of them going against that, Hobbs being
Great new
introduced.
characters, even Elena, like, being this,
Yes.
moral cop doing this out of loyalty to her killed husband, being the one kind of uncorrupt cop in this sea of corruption. Our villain is solid in terms of just kind of, being this
He is.
smarmy businessman and, having the police on his leash so hard that he owns the police station. So, what our crew is up against and really bringing together all aspects, all generations of the series up to that point. So we're getting characters from 4. We're getting Vince coming back from the first film, which I thought was really I
Yeah.
appreciated seeing him come back. And then Roman and Tej from 2 and
Yeah.
Gal
It
from
is
4
it
and just everybody.
everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody. It
Han,
is.
yeah. So seeing the building of this team and really it encompassing every character we've kind of grown to know throughout that franchise up to that point, I thought was so much fun, and you really love that team dynamic, and Hobbs coming in is great addition, Elena, great addition. The Safe Through the Streets is such a fun
It
sequence.
is. It's a
Um,
wonderful action sequence, but
yeah,
you are right, it is where the entire series becomes a family.
yeah,
That is where it happens. You can't break my family. Well, that family truly starts. Yes, okay, it's been there since the beginning, but the family as we know it starts in 5.
yeah.
That's when the known faces come together as one for the first time, all of them.
Yeah, Mia finding out she's pregnant and revealing that to Brian and Dom, and
It's a
that giving them just another inch of ground that we need to fight for, and the
yeah,
big fight between Hobbs and Dom, and them realizing, we have a common enemy, so maybe we should kind of work together, and how that kind of
yeah.
how Hobbs gets ingratiated into that after, his whole team gets killed, that whole sequence, and Dom, this man is chasing him, but he steps up and helps Hobbs, and how
And
that whole
Hobbs does
relationship
feel
works out,
pretty
indebted to him.
intimidating as well. Hobbs does feel
Yes.
pretty ruthless
Yeah.
for
Oh,
the
yeah.
first half of that movie,
Yeah.
because obviously Dwayne Johnson's massive and,
Yes.
pretty intimidating anyway, but he really does feel kind of unstoppable.
Yeah.
And then, yes, the realization happens. Hobbs kind of gets on board to take down I can't remember his name.
Oh,
Um,
no, Braga's
Bra-
the 4. No,
I don't
I just watched the movie, like, his son is the
I
same
genuinely
has the
don't
same
remember.
name.
Jason
Yeah.
Momoa's dad.
Yes, him.
Um, I think it's a really, really great action movie that is a great action movie outside of Fast and Furious movies as well, which I think is most impressive,
Yeah.
really. But yes, your number one is my number 8. Janine.
Well, shout out to the only other person who understands this, Brandon Hanna. Like, he loves
I-
this movie as much as I do. So shout out to you, Brandon. Too Fast, Too Furious is my number one fast
but
movie.
why? But why?
I I love the dynamic between Roman and Brian. I think it's so fun. Like, all the ad-libbing done by Tyrese is just so hilarious to me. He's such a funny character. I love their friendship. Um, the simplicity of kind of their mission. Like, I feel like it makes sense in terms of where Brian would be. He's kind of on the run. He finds this street scene, then he does get caught, and so how they recruit him, why they would need him. Cole Hauser is a menacing villain. um his two thugs kind of being ingratiated into the plot, and Tyrese just constantly messing with them and joking with them, and I just have a lot of fun with it. I think it's funny. I love the street race at the beginning. um that happens with, we need a fourth person. Who are we going to call? Here comes Brian, and how we reintroduce him to us after that first movie. um Tej being in the mix, and uh yeah, just some fun sequences in terms of them, having to get the cars from those Fonzie guys, and
Tej
um
doing what he's actually supposed to be good at, that's forgotten about for most of the rest of the entire series.
right, like, he was a
He's just a
mechanic, and now
mechanic.
all of a sudden he's like some tech genius. 2 movies later, he's a tech genius. um but yeah, and I think another question that's been out there, like the De Niro Pacino debate, has been, when did this series get kind of crazy? And someone made a really good argument for the moment in this movie when Brian drives the boat into Carter Verone's yacht. Um,
Yeah,
and
but
I would say that is a fair kind of start to the
too early
craziness,
though.
but I feel like that's kind of a crazy thing to drive a car into a boat.
It is,
Um,
yes.
Yeah, and I just have a lot. I always have fun with this movie. I think it's hilarious. Some of the line delivery, it's already like just another step of seeing Paul Walker actually be a solid actor, because he has to kind of carry this movie and be the lead. Um, you
Oh,
know,
so the quality of acting really shines in the
yeah,
what's
because
the line?
he has to
What's the
step up.
stupid line?
I said, forget about it, cuz.
Exactly.
So
The
good.
quality of
It's
acting
so
shown so
good.
heavily there.
I love it. I love it. But just their friendship and dynamic feels genuine. Like, it feels real. Um and I love it. And I just have so much fun with that movie. It's a good balance of, the darker tone with Carter Verone, like he's torturing this guy with a rat. And so them really feeling the heat of, oh my gosh, it's the same kind of heat from the beginning of, oh my gosh, we're gonna get caught. seeing how deep Ava Mendes is in it, and
Mhm.
and then her kind of revealing, Carter revealing that he knows he's onto her. And so, I mean, I like the story they crafted around not having Vin Diesel, crafting the story around where Brian would be after what he did in the first film. His dynamic with Tyrese is just so much fun. All of Tyrese's ad libs are hilarious. I love that friendship. It feels very real and genuine. Them kind of having to come up with their own fun plan. The racing sequences are great because, again, this is the core of these movies, is the street racing aspect. So I like that played into a lot of the story.
The cars are horrible.
Yes.
They are.
And we
Though.
do get a
It is
solid villain.
peak
So
horrible cars, by
yeah.
the way.
Yes.
Luminous orange and things like
and
that.
bright pink,
Oh,
and
go
crazy color
away.
cars. But yes, I enjoyed the story. It felt very plausible to where these characters would be after that first movie. Paul Walker stepping up into the lead and really holding his own. Funny, a lot of fun. And yeah, I I just love it. I
appreciate.
have so much fun with it.
I
For
do.
how
I
simple it is,
appreciate your
I have
love.
fun. I have fun. I have fun with it. So it's the one I love to revisit the most. So
I appreciate your singular love for Too Fast, Too Furious, and you are very singular. I mean, well, okay, our love
oh,
gets
sorry.
involved as well, but you and Brandon Hannah can be very singularly together involved in your love of that
It's good.
particular
It
movie.
is good.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Well, we made it. We made it through our rankings of the
We
Fast
did. I mean,
films.
we are on for a
Yeah.
longer
So
episode
if you're still
today.
here, thank you for
Oh
hanging
my
out
god.
with us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
We did want to end, as we always do, with a bit of fun games.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of this. This is my waffling on about Killers of
Okay.
the Flower Moon that's killed this off, by the way. That killed the time.
Maybe a
here.
little bit. But this was probably not a good idea to rank these films and then give you this quiz, because I'm pretty sure we answered all of the questions on this
Oh
quiz
well, if I can
just
remember it.
from our conversation. So it's my turn to test your skills this week. And so I thought, we're talking Fast and Furious. Let's do some Fast and Furious trivia. So this is a BuzzFeed quiz called "Do you remember the Fast and Furious movies by heart?" Let's
Probably
find
not,
out.
though. No. Even
So
still, having just talked about them for 40 minutes.
yes, so I'm like, you're gonna know all of these now, because I think we got pretty in depth with our conversation. But fun and games segment of the show, Fast
Yay.
and Furious trivia. Me asking Morgan these questions. So, question one:
Yes.
what year did the first Fast and Furious movie hit theaters?
2001.
Okay, very good. What was Brian's original job?
He was. I mean, he worked in the police. He was a detective. I don't exactly know. He was a police.
Yes, he was a cop. Yes, yeah. Uh, what is the name of Dom's sister?
Mia.
In what movie does Letty die?
Well, Letty's alive. False information. False information. Well, it'll be 4. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
thought yes, yes,
died. Yeah.
but it's false information.
Yes, it is. Which famous rapper permanently joined the cast?
Well, probably Ludacris.
Yes.
As is he even known for his music anymore?
Anymore? Yeah. I mean, probably not as much. What brand of beer does Dom exclusively drink? Who wrote this quiz? Terrible.
Oh, I wonder what it is. Is it Miller Lite? No, it's Corona.
Yes, that is correct. Which famous wrestler joined the cast in Fast 5?
Well, that would be Dwayne Johnson. However, we now have another wrestler.
We do. During the end chase in Fast 5, what is the team dragging behind their car? I really should have checked this quiz.
An enormous bank safe, yes.
Yes. What does Letty suffer from in Fast and Furious 6?
Well, I suppose it's amnesia, but it
Yes, that is correct.
well, yeah.
What shape is the necklace Dom wears?
It's a crucifix.
Yes. Which
He's
of
so
Owen?
religious because he constantly prays.
Yes. Which of Owen Shaw's family members seeks revenge on the team? Damn it!
Well, Helen Mirren gets involved as well. Both of them, his brother, both of them, both his brother and his mother, because Helen Mirren does get involved.
And his sister appears in Hobbs and Shaw.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, my quiz like reset itself. Okay. What is the name of the computer program the team looks for in Furious 7?
Oh, that's the God's Eye thing.
Yes. How many skyscrapers do Dom and Brian jump through in Furious 7?
Oh. Two. Do they not go from one to the other?
I mean, I don't know. Technically, it's 3 because they go from one to another. But I guess if you're not counting the first one.
There's 3?
Well, they start in one, they jump out of it. So I guess, yes, it's 2. So they jump into one and then they jump into another one. So I guess
I
2.
only remember one jump. Sorry
And
about
there were
that.
2. There were 2
Now,
jumps.
if there's 2 jumps, then yeah, I've not got that one right.
Who ultimately betrays the team in the Fate of the Furious?
Who ultimately? What do you mean?
Who ultimately betrays the team in the Fate of the Furious?
Well, Dom switches.
Yes, that is
Oh,
correct.
I thought you were tricking me. But he comes back at the end. These questions are not factually accurate.
Who is the mother of Dom's son?
What's her name? What's her name? Who was killed? Who was she played by? Oh God.
Thor's wife.
Yes, was it Elsa Pataki?
Yes.
Whatever her name was.
Elena.
Sorry.
Which item falls out the window of a building when the team is in New York?
I haven't got a clue. New York?
Yes.
Don't know. No idea.
Cars.
Cars. Well, that's
which I forgot to talk about that sequence, which was really cool when Cypher makes all of the remote cars kind of animate.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
All the cars fall out of the windows and yeah.
I don't remember that being in New York, but okay.
Vin Diesel doesn't appear in which Fast and Furious movie?
Number 2.
Yes.
He's in the third one. At the end.
Yes. And I think this is the last one. This is okay. Oh no, there's 2 more.
Okay.
Okay. Which 2 characters starred in a spin-off movie? God, I should have.
Well, considering the title of that spin-off movie is the 2 characters' names.
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw. Would you like first names? Luke and Deckard.
Wow, look at you. Okay.
Although I don't know
really
why
showing off.
Anybody thought Dwayne Johnson looked like somebody called Luke.
No, he doesn't. Okay, these are the last 2 questions. What is the total number of movies planned for the franchise?
Well, we don't know now. So,
well, there's
10,
choices
11, 13.
No, that's not correct.
Well, it
Apparently,
is.
per this quiz, it's 11.
Nonsense. No, it's 13 because there's 10 real
Well,
ones,
I
Hobbs
think
and Shaw, and now there's going to be 2 more according to Vin Diesel. So it's 13.
well, I think this was before he said that. Um, Finally, what does Dom always say? You can't turn your back on.
No, it's you can't break my family.
No, but he
That's
says
what he
that as
says.
well.
He says you can't break my family. It's on
But
a
he
sign.
says this as well.
He says you can't turn your back on family.
Yes, yes, and that is it.
You can't turn your back on
Aced
friends.
you aced this incredibly easy
Thank you.
quiz.
Thank you. It's stunningly simple, Fast and Furious
Yes, so
quiz.
I guess you know these movies by heart. Congratulations.
Yay! I'm so proud of myself. Well, there we go for this Fast and Furious episode of
Yes.
Monday Madness. It is, of course, not the only show we have on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed with Morgan Hasn't Seen and It's a Wonderful Podcast, the main show on Wednesdays and Fridays. Every single week over there on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe to the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed. Of course, if you are watching this on YouTube as well, subscribe, ding your notification bell on here for Monday Madness, for Morgan's movie collection, for Jeannine's videos as well on this YouTube channel. All the fun stuff we do over here. And other things as well. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, there are links in the description to do that. We can't do what we do without that generous support, and we love all our patrons so very dearly. You can find us on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. You can find me on Twitter at the Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in the because, Janine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram and TikTok at the Purple Don. All your Fast and Furious stuff is where.
You can find me at JannineDeBean _ on Twitter, JannineDeBean on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, the link has been scrolling by on the bottom, or you can check the description or search It's a Wonderful Podcast on teespring.com. We have some really fun designs in there, all the logos for our shows, plus some fun Stranger Things designs. So check it out if you want merch. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
Yes. Well, there we go. I think unless we have anything else to say, I'm going to go and watch Fast X now so we can do this separate full spoiler review.
Yes.
Because the annoying scheduling that has been this weekend's recordings.
Yes.
For the shows.
It's been tricky, but yes, definitely. Want to get your thoughts and do a full kind of spoiler talk with you. So
yes,
look
I'm going
forward
to go
to
watch the movie. I do think there's only one thing left to do, Janine, and you are definitely 115,000% doing another Vin Diesel impression, please.
3, 2, family.
Sounds like a gorilla. Bye.
Bye. Does Vin Diesel not sound like
He does sound like a gorilla. King Kong starring Vin Diesel.